All right, I'll start off by a little gratitude to our veterans that support our program, that watch this and listen to us. Thank you for all that you've done for our country. I know I'm proud to wake up and get to do what I love because of you, so thank you. And then, regardless of last week's game, I was really proud of the way we responded late in that game. And I'm really proud of our defense. Of being in a tough situation and getting a critical stop to give us a chance to go win it. And like when you have a quarterback like Noah Fafita, when the ball's in his hands and you got a chance to go win it, he's going to go win it. So I'm really proud of him. I'm really proud of our offense. I think that's something we can build on. Now, was the game inconsistent for us offensively? Yes, we were kind of up and down, hot and cold. But at the end of the day, we won, and that's what matters. So there's a ton to improve on. And our guys know that, but we got a lot of momentum in that locker room right now, heading into a top 25 opponent in Cincinnati, that we feel very confident that we can go and compete and have a chance to win. So I'm excited about the week ahead. I think we've had a good practice. We had a good practice today with a lot of intention, a lot of detail, a lot of discipline, and a lot of effort and execution, for a Tuesday practice. So we're right where we need to be. Our kids are fired up about being bowl eligible, but that's not the standard, and that's not what they came here to do. They came here to win every single game they possibly could play. So we got 3 left, and that's their goal, is to win all of them. And it starts this week.
Thank you, Coach. We'll start with Brian.
Yeah, when you look at your running numbers and you see a game like this last one, you take out the sacks and you're averaging like 8 yards a carry, and it's like 5.5 per carry on an actual design run. Does it make you wonder, why aren't we able to just do that consistently throughout the game? Is there a situation where you're sitting how do I make this so that we're always doing this and it doesn't just average out?
I think part of it's because we're balanced, right? We're able to run the football because we're balanced. Mm-hmm. So that number is averaged out that way because you're able to throw it. If you're just running it, mm-hmm. Well, they're going to load the box. That number's not going to be the same, right? So I think, if you're specifically Kansas, the advantage run numbers weren't there. Mm-hmm. We were always having to make somebody miss at 2 or 3 yards. And we just have really good running backs that did that. Or there was some times where we manipulated the box with the quarterback run game that allowed us to do some things. And so I just think for us to have the success, you got to stay balanced, and you got to threaten them through the air. And there were some times I felt like we did run the ball where it should have been a better play than it is, and we didn't execute in the run game early on in that game. So. And there was times where I felt like we were adjusting, and when we made the adjustment, we didn't execute the adjustment. And then by the time I could get back to it, well, they've adjusted, And so, I think that's a tough question to answer. But my answer would be okay, we got to stay balanced and be able to throw the ball so we can open up those run lanes. So they have to honor, Noah throwing the football, and I think it's been a good balance for us so far.
So is it fair to say that if those numbers exist that way because of that, if you were just running all the time, it would be very difficult to sustain numbers like that?
Correct. Yeah. And I think obviously, including Noah in the run game allows that to free up too. Mm-hmm. If you don't have quarterback run game nowadays, it's tough, and especially the way people are playing, especially in our league. I feel like in our league, the defensive schemes are really, really, really top notch and elite, to be honest with you. I think Kansas probably, and I think if you talk to their coaches, might have played their best game on defense if you were to ask them, because they really played well, and they made it extremely challenging for us. Like I said, I felt our kids responded, especially on times it mattered. Like I said, it was hot and cold, but going into halftime, we scored a touchdown. That's a huge, a clock drive scoring points there is huge, and then coming out of halftime and scoring points, that in that middle 8 period. That was huge, and then obviously getting the ball back late and going and winning, that was huge. So, like I said, I'm proud of the way our kids responded through a tough adverse game, because we didn't play our best on offense. It wasn't as clean as we wanted it to be. That's football. It's an imperfect game, and sometimes when you're not playing your best, you still got to find a way to win. And we've talked about that since I've gotten here. Is when you create a culture and a mentality on offense, not everything's gonna be perfect. You're not going to have 500 yards or 400 yards total offense per game. Noah, you're not going to throw for 300 per game. We still got to find a way to win the game. And I was really proud of our kids because we found a way to win.
Justin.
We just talked to Tristan Bounds. What do you make of his season and how he's progressed at right tackle?
Yeah, I mean he's improved tremendously, and when he got here in the spring, he was a little light, and he wasn't very developed. And it's kind of weird saying that coming from a school like Michigan, where you're thinking, okay, that's it's like one of the O-line capitals of college football, and when we get him, he's like I said, he's light and he's not very polished, to a point where you're like, okay, I don't know if he'll be a starter for us, but he'd be a great rotational player. And then he kept chopping at it, he kept working at it, and then he got to a point where he got an opportunity because of Rhino still not being available, where he got to play early in games. And early in the season, was he playing at the level he's playing at right now? Absolutely not. There was some times where he felt like almost like he's a liability, but then again, he just kept getting more confident. He kept playing through it. He kept trusting the preparation, trusting the coaching, and then next thing you know, he's one of our better linemen. I think it's another example of how Coach Oglesby does such a good job of development. I mean, that guy he's really, really good at what he does, and those kids love him. And so Tristan Bounds will hang on every single word that Josh Oglesby will say, and because of that, he's gotten 10 times better, and now he looks like he belongs in the Big 12.
What was the turning point for him?
I think playing in real games,
Okay.
in my opinion. Like when he plays it, like I think it's that confidence is such a unique thing when it comes to like performance, in my opinion. And there's so much you can do with practice. Like I've been around really good practice players, but all of a sudden they get into a game and it's just like, where are you? But also in the same token, a guy that hasn't played as much gets into a game and starts playing well, all of a sudden his confidence shoots through the roof, and now he's telling himself, instead of like, can I play? Oh yeah, hell yeah, I can play. I can do this. And so the next thing you know, he's starting to trust a little bit more of the coaching fundamental. He's starting to trust his pad leverage a little bit more. Start trusting his pass set a little bit more, knowing like, okay, I don't have to worry about getting beat because I've proved to myself that I've won. And I think that's where he's at. I think he's got a ton of confidence in himself, and I think he's got a ton of confidence in our staff and in Coach Oglesby and what we're doing. So, I'm very proud of that kid.
Jason.
Thoughts overall on Cincinnati and the challenges they present?
Obviously their scheme is very. We've played something very similar in Iowa State, and we didn't have a ton of success, right? So that's going to be a challenge. That's the one game that we had a little bit of a hiccup, and so we got another opportunity to go after it. I think they're big up front, very big and strong. And then I think their linebackers are long. They got a couple of linebackers that are 6'4". They got a lot of length. I think their back end again is like, because of what they do, and they ask those guys to fit so hard. They're extremely good at the run fits, and they're very physical downhill. And I think their corners, as much as you would say like, oh, they're only 5'8" or 5'9", whatever they are, but they got something in their neck, man. They're going to compete and they're going to challenge you. So it's a very, very, very stout defense that's good at what they do. It reminds me of Iowa State, and that guy's from Iowa State. So obviously he's bringing that blueprint over to Cincinnati. They don't do a ton, but they do enough that present challenges that were schematically you got to have answers for. And they're good at what they do, and obviously they're believing at a high level and they're playing at a high level. So we got a unique challenge in front of us, but I know our guys are excited and ready to go compete, and that's what we've been talking about. We've talked about recovery. We've been talking about doing the unrequired, the extra, the in between, to make sure that we're ready to go take on a top 25 opponent and score a lot of points doing it. So I'm excited about the week. I'm excited about our prep. Like I said, I thought today was a good first step in the direction that we want to go. I think it would have been easy after winning or getting bowl eligible. Everybody's kind of patting everybody on the back, saying, "Oh, you guys made a bowl," and nobody thought you could. But that's not what these guys, especially at Tristan, guys like that came here to do. They came here to win as many games as possible and get in the best bowl game as possible. So I'm excited about the mentality that we have, and we got to keep attacking this week so we can put our best performance on Saturday, because they are a talented defense.
Mike.
Follow up to Brian's question about running the ball. Do you have a number, a percentage in mind when you go into a season or go into a game? I want to run the ball 45% of the time, or is it totally dependent on personnel, matchups, all of that?
It's personnel, matchups, and feel of the game. how well are we running it, and then what are they going to give us? Are they giving us easy throws? Are we protecting well? All that kind of comes into mind when it comes to whether or not you should run it or throw it. And then at the same token, I got a special quarterback, so I'm not just going to take the ball out of his hands either. I think we've done a great job of being balanced. So a lot of that, like you said, has a lot to do with going into a game, figuring out where our best matchups are, figuring out what can we where can we execute, where are their weaknesses, where can we attack, where can Noah be his best at, and then what gives us the best advantage from a box standpoint from numbers, and then we go attack it that way. And a lot of it is adjustments in field and game day too.
So they were obviously getting home a lot with their edge blitzes in this last game, sometimes even with their four-man rush. Were you tempted during that game to be like, hey, maybe we should run the ball a little bit more to try to negate that? Or?
Well, I think what you're referring to is there was a couple looks that they had, non-scouted looks, where they basically five up the O-lineman, had two edge pressures that wasn't scouted, so we didn't have an answer for that. So the first time we ran it, we ID'd it as we ID'd it, and we were short one. So Noah got hit. We go back to the sideline, we adjust. That's actually the same look that we scored on at the end of the game. So we adjusted. We knew what we were doing, and there was a couple sacks where we just mis-ID'd a couple things, right? Like it wasn't like, oh no, they did something crazy. We just mis-ID'd it, and we cut some guys free. That's part of like the execution. That's part of the accountability that some of our players got to take. But we did do some. There was a couple times. Obviously that first time they did hit us. I mean, that's on us because we didn't have an answer. We'd never seen it. We ID'd it as we ID it, but with what they were doing, we needed to adjust and make the ID different, and it allows the backs rules, and we could have protected it. Okay, there was another one on third down late in the first drive, or the first drive out of the second half, where they kind of have an overload pressure to our man side that we didn't get it communicated to whip it or to ID it, low it, whatever you want to say, back into the boundary to put our slide side there. We would have protected that one too. But there was a motion, and they kind of had a weird look up front, and that was something that we weren't prepared for. So they got us on two. The rest of them, I think, like I said, there was a miss-ID on one sack. I think we just got beat one time. Man to man just got beat one time on a sack. We gave up a couple pressures, but I wasn't super concerned. I was like, oh no, we got to get away from it. You with me? I think that's the only way. We did hit some explosives, but again, like because I kept trying. Like there was a couple times we gave up sacks. There would have been touchdowns. They'd have been touchdowns, and so in my mind, I'm like, okay, I got to come back to that because that's a touchdown. And so I thought, my normal behavior is to stay aggressive, and I felt like if I can stay aggressive, that gives us the best chance. I thought we did a good job of leaning on the run game late, but because of what we did early, allowed me to lean on the run game late and gave us advantage.
Troy.
When looking at road games, Noah's played very well in the last two, Houston, Colorado. What do you think are the keys for him to start off strong and the offense to start off on the right note in Cincinnati playing another road game this season?
That's right. I think when he started playing well is when he started really trusting, what we do and how we do things. And I think if you look back at the Kansas game, he missed a couple, in my opinion, like throws that he normally doesn't miss. And that was because I thought maybe he might be overthinking at times again. And that's the only time he ever gets in trouble is he starts trying to process the coverage, what are they doing, how they're rotating, like where is this going to go? It's like, no, you trust your progression, you go through your reads. And when he does that, he's brilliant, and you guys know that. So, and then now, with all that being said, his warrior mentality and his heart is the only reason we won that game, right? Because of the way the presence that he has and the command that he has in the huddle to go say, and Danny will tell you this because Danny told me the story because he's on the field and I'm in the box. But when they had a chance to go get a stop, Noah's the one that came up to him and said, give me the ball back, we're going to score, we're going to win this game. And that's the type of leader you want. And in the last couple of road games, the reason he's played so well is because, man, he preps the right way. He preps the right way. He practices the right way. He doesn't miss throws in practice. And then when he goes out there on game day and he trusts his prep and he trusts his rhythm and he trusts his footwork and he trusts his progression and he trusts his teammates, well, now he's special. And so that's what I expect him to do the same every single week.
Last one, Justin.
So their quarterback, Brendan Sorsby, is a Dallas guy. Are you familiar with him, and what do you think about him as a quarterback?
Yeah, I think he's a stud. When I watch him in crossover, he's playing at a high level. He moves around well. He's got a really live arm. He can throw from different platforms. They do a lot with him with the run game as well, moving him off his spot. And then I have a story. I was actually out of work. I got let go at Bowling Green, and what that'd have been 27 or 17 or 18, I can't remember. And I was interviewing for a D2 OC job at the time, and so at the time I'm thinking I'm going to take this job. So I started looking at quarterbacks, like uncommitted quarterbacks, and Sorsby doesn't have an offer because he didn't play his senior year. I think he got hurt his junior year. I know he didn't play maybe 3-4 games his senior year. So nobody really knew about him because he was kind of a late bloomer. Well, then all of a sudden, I get a job at USC. Because Graham gets a job. He hires me as an analyst. So, I'm just kind of keeping up on my phone on where Sorsby's going to go. And next thing you know, he starts popping offers. You know what I mean? But you could see it on the tape in high school, like the limited tape that he had. Like he was kind of a freak. You know what I mean? Just a late bloomer, kind of like John Mateer a little bit. Yeah. And so some of those guys just kind of fall through the cracks just because, as a sophomore, and I think that's just quarterback recruiting 101, or not 101, but just like in general, is there's times as a sophomore, the kid's just not ready. You with me? But that kid that's ready as a sophomore doesn't progress as much through up until the senior year, and then obviously Brandon Sorsby, John Mateer, when they're seniors, are ready, and they've gotten 10 times better, and so they've progressed. So I think sometimes when it comes to quarterback recruiting, you can get on a guy early because you think he's ready as a sophomore, well, he doesn't progress as much. Maybe he's hit his ceiling, and then there's a guy like Sorsby that's like, okay, he wasn't ready as a sophomore. By the time he's a senior, he's a freak, and so I think. Some of those guys that don't have quarterbacks late in the recruiting process get lucky on those guys because, okay, I don't have a quarterback yet. I got to find one. Well, all of a sudden you go to Dallas and there's this kid that everybody's talking about that nobody's offered that's a freak, And so I think he can play. I think Danny said it before. He's probably the best quarterback that they've played this year, and he's gonna present some challenges for him. So we're excited. We're excited to compete with him.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Yeah.
Thanks, Seth.
Yep.
Thank you.